All right, folks, this is breaking news. There's been new filing by attorneys for President Trump in Georgia, raising new questions about the relationship between the two prosecutors. Of course, we're talking about Nathan Wade and Fani Willis, the district attorney, who appeared to make at least 35 visits to the Hapeville neighborhood where Fani Willis was living before the district attorney hired him to lead Fulton County's election interference prosecution for about $700,000. He testified last week under oath that he had been to her place no more than 10 times before he was hired in November of 2021. This shows 35 visits. They both testified that their relationship didn't become romantic until 2022 and that they did not spend the night together. But in the filings, we also see, Andy Economou is joining us, the timestamps on the filings. He was leaving late at night, Andy, and he was arriving there late at night and then leaving the Willis condo early in the morning.
That's right.
That brings into question again how many times they lied under oath last week.
That's right. We can begin to count the times, and each time that you lied is a count of perjury. But what happened was he was in East Cobb County, which is north of the city of Atlanta proper, and she was living at a condo in Hapeville, Georgia, which is near the airport in Atlanta. I live in Atlanta. That's a 32-mile run, and in Atlanta traffic, it takes a long time, so you don't go and come easily. But on one occasion, September 11, 21, he got at her condo in Hapeville. This is September 11, 2021. He got there at 3:28 a.m. and then could be seen arriving in East Cobb at 4:05 a.m. And then on another occasion on 29th of November 2021, he got a call from her at 11:32 p.m. He gets at her condo in Hapeville. Remember, Clayton County, 32 miles away, at 12:43 a.m. in the morning and stays there till 5 a.m. in the morning.
The affidavit also says that Willis and Wade each called each other more than 2,000 times during the first 11 months of 2021, exchanged just less than 12,000 text messages. But again, Andy, what this really goes to is under oath, lying about their personal relationship, the $700,000, I repaid him in cash, we went on trips. We all understood this was getting more and more salacious. This shows just how much time they were spending together, how serious this was, and that it does contradict what they testified to under oath. This is using, of course, a cell phone data that is data that's used in court all the time by prosecutors and by police to figure out people's locations. So now they say they're going to respond. I mean, how do you respond and say, well, we never spent the night together, and he was coming there at 10:45 at night, and his phone was there till 5 in the morning?
She's backed herself into a corner, and so is he.
I mean, at this point, do you just remove yourself if you're her?
You know, if I were her, that would be the right thing to do. That would be
hopefully not get criminally charged.
Yeah,
just say, you know what, this got out of control.
It got out of control. I'm a human being. I made a terrible mistake. I'm withdrawing from the case. My office is being withdrawn from the case. Governor appointed another prosecutor. I'm sorry I did it. You know, it's what happened. But I don't think Fani Willis is that kind of person. I think she's going to persist until the end.
Secretary Pompeo, I did want to go to you first on this breaking news out of Atlanta because we're seeing, an absolute legal assault on who is the likely Republican presidential candidate, and Donald Trump, who you worked for as a Secretary of State and CIA director. And we have now learned in the matter out of Georgia, which got a lot of attention last week, about the prosecutor, the DA there, and the special counsel she brought in. And there was a whole hearing about that, their personal relationship, the amount of money that he was paid, and whether or not she was reimbursing in cash. And now it looks like they've been caught, under oath a few times last week, making statements that cell phone data is refuting. Like, instead of saying, maybe I went over to apartment 10 times, it was 35 times. Never spent the night except for you've got his phone there at night, and then you have it leaving in the morning. I'm hoping, Secretary Pompeo, that this is the beginning of some of this war on Donald Trump, if you want to call it lawfare, this absolute war on the leading Republican candidate for president, beginning to crumble.
Well, Jordan, what they've done in these legal cases, certainly the case down in Georgia that's led by Fani Willis, but some of the others as well, if they've literally undermined the central pillars of our republic, of our democratic system, by using laws that have never been enforced before, bringing cases that are just based on absolute nothing and trying to undermine, to try and take resources, money, time, all things away from campaigning against the candidate they want to be president. This is so inconsistent with the American tradition. It's so deeply abhorrent. And so your point is well taken. I too hope we're starting to see that if anybody watched the testimony that she provided last week, this is a fantasy prosecution. And you can now see that pieces of what they built it upon are beginning to fall down. And I think that's probably going to turn out to be true in New York and Georgia. And I hope that it's so. And I hope most importantly, I hope the American people get a chance to see that with absolute clarity, so they can see what the Democrat Party machinery has done to undermine the central constitutional pillars of our democracy.
Yeah, I mean, we know there's going to be a hearing next week with a closing statement by the defendants who have brought this motion to have her removed as the lead attorney, Ann Wade, and then under Georgia's rules, then a new DA would be appointed to oversee this. And again, they could continue with the case, but they could also decide this is a mess and just drop all of it. There's also a meeting with one of the key witnesses who took a lot of liberties with what it means to, again, attorney-client privilege. So the judge is doing that next week. This explains a little bit more, too, about why this hearing from now 2 weeks ago is going into week 3, because I think it's all beginning to crumble. Though you did mention New York as well, Secretary Pompeo, and I want to go to that because news there, I predicted it yesterday that in most cases, if you ask for an extension on a bond in a civil case where you've got to put together maybe $400 million, you would get the extension if you said, hey, these are the reasons why we need the extension to do this, and X, Y, and Z. And of course, when you're Donald Trump and you've got now 24 days left to do it before they can start actually technically beginning to try and seize a building, you get denied.
Jordan, that is simply another example of them using unprecedented action, right? When literally no one, even liberal publications are writing, hey, we've never seen anybody prosecuted for providing, the valuations of properties that we haggle about with a bank when there's no victim. Now another example where they're literally applying the law in a one-off way that demonstrates that this is a political prosecution. It's tragic. It's certainly tragic for former President Trump. It is indecent. But when you think about the ramifications for our system, for the rule of law in America, the whole world is watching what's taking place and the way that this New York prosecutor has acted and the judge acted in that case. I hope this all crumbles when it gets to appeal. I hope there are saner, more rational. I don't mean this politically. I mean people who value our systems and institutions. I hope they get a hold of this and throw this all out. But the pain that is happening in the middle of an American election to undermine these institutions, it just breaks my heart, Jordan. It is so unprecedented and so unfathomable.
Yeah,